So the only thing that's certain in life is uncertainty. A few people have taken credit for that quote, but never is it more applicable than it is with a Ford Ranger. Oh, the time. So it's 5 AM. I'm off for a client shoot and I'm driving up to Blackspur Drive. Which is going to take an hour and 14 minutes. I'm tired. First stop's coffee. So I'm here at McDonald's to get a coffee. Otherwise we're not going to be getting anything done today. Parking sensors are good. Hey mate, can we just get a almond vanilla latte, please? Not bad. I'm sat at the services of my Macca's coffee, which is terrible considering I'm in Melbourne and Melbourne makes some of the best coffee in the world. But yeah, so I'm on my way to a client shoot at Blackspur Drive and we're on a race to get there before the sun comes up. But I just wanted to share a story with you about the Ford Ranger. I'm sat inside a 2020 black XLT 2-litre bi-turbo. But this is a replacement vehicle from Ford Australia because something happened to the previous one that put mine and my family's lives at risk. It's happened to a lot of other people and it's something that I don't think Ford Australia are addressing well enough. Now you might be watching this video because you're considering buying a 2-litre bi-turbo Ranger or you're trying to decide between a 3.2 litre and a 2-litre bi-turbo. So I'm just going to take you through the car today on my way and maybe I'll just carry it on later on during the day, but I'm just going to take you through everything about the 2-litre bi-turbo from my perspective and what I think about it. So when buying a Ford Ranger, there's two important decisions that you need to make. The first one is, do you go 3.2 litre or do you go for the 2-litre bi-turbo? And the other one is, do you go new or do you go used? So at the moment, the used car market in Australia is absolutely booming. In a relatively COVID-free economy, there's a huge amount of demand and not enough supply. And also, when you have a used vehicle, it comes with a certain amount of uncertainty itself. You don't know how well the vehicle's been looked after. You don't know if it's been thrashed around off-road. So with all these factors taken into consideration, you would probably go for a new vehicle. Now, I did this at the end of 2020 and I bought a new 2020 MY 20.75 FX4. It was one of two of the only ones left in stock and it took some hunting to get. Now, there's a problem with the 2-litre bi-turbo that Ford Australia are not addressing. But first, let me just talk to you about the differences between the 3.2 litre and the 2-litre bi-turbo. Now, I test drove both of the vehicles when I decided to buy the FX4. There was one 3.2 litre and there was one 2 litre available. One had a tech pack and one didn't. And the optional tech pack, I think, is an additional $1,700. And it's actually on this black XLT. I think it comes adaptive cruise control, the self-park option, but none of which I've used so far, and I'm on 2,500 kilometres. So I test drove both vehicles, both the 3.2 litre and the 2-litre bi-turbo. Now there's lots of videos out there that will tell you the differences and all the technical details. There's a good comparison video out there for towing with both, and it depends really what's important to you. But from a driver's perspective, the 2-litre is a much better vehicle. It's more responsive, it's nicer to drive, it feels like you've got power, and the Ford Ranger with a 2-litre bi-turbo is a pretty agile vehicle for a dual cab ute. It's pretty good. The 2-litre bi-turbo has not been without its issues. When it was first released, there was 21,000 Ford Rangers mixed with Everests that had the 2-litre bi-turbo that were recalled by Ford for a gearbox issue. But there's another problem, and the one that I experienced with the FX4 that I had before this, that they're not really addressing, and it's quite dangerous, and I think it's quite negligent. Now, quite a lot of people have experienced the same issue, and I think rather than Ford Australia spending the money to recall the vehicle, they're doing it as a more reactive approach, but the issue is quite dangerous. There is some madness going on here. So one thing with the 2 litre, it always pulls away nicely. You never really have a problem. You don't really feel like you're driving a ute, to be honest, when you're driving the 2 litre. It is a nice, enjoyable drive. I'd probably rather be driving Black Spur Drive on a Harley Davidson than a Ford Ranger, but it's actually an awesome drive, and it's starting to get quite busy. There's quite a lot of people around for this time of the morning. So let me tell you about what happened with our FX4. So we bought it at the end of the 2020. We decided to go with the 2 litre bi-turbo. It was the obvious choice. It was going to be a family vehicle. It was driving so much better. That was the one that we wanted. So we found the FX4, we bought it. This was during lockdown. We had the car for just under 2 weeks, and it had done about 1,800 kilometres. So we'd picked up the kids from school, I had the full family in, wife, 2 kids in the back. Just as we pulled off the main highway, a low fuel pressure warning light came up on the dash. I thought, oh, that's a bit strange. A few seconds later, all the power went, and the steering wheel locked up as the power steering switched off. So I pulled the car over to the side of the road, and there was a distinct smell of fuel. Tried to restart the vehicle, nothing, dead, button's dead, won't restart. So I jumped out of the car, and my little girl is saying to me, "Daddy, I can smell petrol." So I've jumped out of the car, and there's a huge puddle of fuel underneath the car, and as I look behind me, it goes right the way up the road. So it appears that the car has dumped fuel everywhere. So I've immediately got the kids out of the car. It's a pretty dangerous situation that we're on. We're on a quite busy road. It's a warm day. Any second now, boom, the whole thing could go up. So immediately I phoned the Ford dealership that I got the vehicle from, spoke to the guy that I purchased the vehicle from, and he explained the situation. He acted really shocked and surprised, hadn't heard of anything like that before. When you buy a new Ford Ranger, you get automatic free RACV cover. So he told me to ring the RACV to get that collected. I did that. Fireys turned up, sand all over the roads, made everything safe. I waited by the side of the road for the RACV for about an hour, managed to get it on the truck, although he was reluctant to, because as we moved it, even more fuel was pouring out, and got it to the dealer just in time. The warning part about this is that Ford aren't really acknowledging this is an issue. I saw the other day on social media an orange wild track by the side of the road that had gone up into flames. And I believe that it's really negligent of Ford to be allowing this to happen without recalling the vehicle. Now I think that they're treating it more as a reactive approach rather than a proactive approach. And it's probably the cost implications of doing a recall on them, the batch that were affected, is probably more than just dealing with the ones when they go wrong. Now I've helped a few people get refunds from Ford the same way that I did, and some compensation, because they're really putting lives at risk here by not dealing with this situation properly, in my opinion. So I've helped about 3 or 4 people get refunds from Ford, and I was fully refunded myself with a bit of compensation after having to threaten legal action. They didn't really acknowledge that it was an issue. They'd said that they'd not experienced it before, and then after a bit of research I found out several, I would probably say at least 10 that I know of personally that it's happened to before. So I'm just going to show you what the issue actually is here. So here you've got the fuel pump, and it's these 2 lines, or one of the lines, that are the issue. Now these little red clips here that have got the markings on, these are the ones that are a bit dodgy, and I don't know whether they're not being put on properly at the factory or whether they're faulty. But when the guys popped the hood when we were down at the dealership, this was the one that was popped off. Fuel was all over the engine bay. So these are marked. I don't know whether they're marked because they've been checked or whether that's just the standard marks, but that was the problem. So what I suggest you do if you're going to buy a 2 litre bi-turbo is that you get Ford to check these before you take delivery of the vehicle, and also get them to check at your intermittent services, even maybe check it yourself. I've seen guys put cable ties and stuff on there just to make sure, and Ford, I think really you should be starting to acknowledge this issue, doing these factory recalls. The guys at the dealership, even when I bought this XLT and I explained the situation to them, still didn't really think that it was a problem, although after drilling down into some of the guys in service, they recognised that they had had a few back. So I'll let you make your own mind up about that, and let me know in the comments down below what your experience has been, if you've had this problem, or which engine you prefer, the 3.2 or the 2 litre. It's interesting to know. But by far and away, if I was to make the choice again, every time I'd get the 2 litre. 2 litre is a better drive, it's a nicer vehicle. I love the Ford Ranger, it's amazing. But just be careful, just make sure you check that issue. And I know there's a few more with the other ones, but yeah, cool. All right, peace out.